Welcome to Congress in Context, your go-to deep dive for cutting through all that legislative noise. This week, wow, we're unpacking a really bustling period in Congress. There's significant activity across both the House and Senate. We'll be touching on everything from global defense and foreign policy to critical intelligence reforms and even some very specific community legislation. Our mission, as always, is to give you a clear, concise, and insightful overview of these recent moves, giving you the context you need to stay well informed. Okay, so let's unpack this. It's an incredibly diverse set of topics this week. It really shows the sheer breadth of what Congress is tackling, often with, well, global implications.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how these seemingly disparate pieces, these different bills, they often connect. They link up to broader national security, economic strategies, even human rights concerns. We'll definitely explore those threads today, try to help you see the bigger picture behind the headlines.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in. Let's start with some of the major legislative actions. Maybe focus on defense and international relations first. We saw some significant pushes to streamline how the U.S. works with its allies and global partners.
Indeed. Yeah, one critical piece you have to look at is H.R. 4215. That's the International Traffic in Arms Regulations Licensing Reform Act, championed by Mr. Baumgartner of Washington. It's a direct response, really, to a long-standing issue. It aims to set fixed, expedited timelines for approving the export of certain defense articles and services.
Okay, so speed, expedited timelines, but why is this so critical now? What's the deeper insight?
Well, it's strategic. It's about maintaining our global competitiveness. For years, allies, sometimes face these really lengthy bureaucratic delays buying U.S. defense equipment. And that sometimes pushed them towards competitors.
Oh, okay, so it's not just paperwork.
No, not at all. This bill isn't just about faster paperwork. It's about ensuring our allies get the best equipment efficiently. It strengthens interoperability, and at the end of the day, it enhances global security and, frankly, our own economic standing. Mr. Baumgartner put it quite plainly, it makes America safer and our economy wealthier.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And building on that theme, strengthening alliances, the House also saw strong support for the Partner Act, which, as you mentioned, Mr. Baumgartner also backed.
That's right.
This measure seems to be about solidifying ties with international organizations, specifically extending certain privileges and immunities to the Caribbean community.
Exactly, under the International Organizations Immunities Act. And look, this isn't a completely new concept. The U.S. has, a century-long history of granting this kind of status. Think the European Union, the African Union, the UN. What's important here, though, is the message it sends today. It's, as he said, good for American diplomacy, good for American science, and good for American leadership, especially when international competition is sharper than ever. And it got broad bipartisan support, which really underscores its diplomatic value.
Okay, so extending a hand to allies is one thing, but Congress also tackled confronting global criminality more directly. H.R. 2643, the Haiti Criminal Collusion Transparency Act, passed with strong bipartisan support too, aiming to expose those funding and profiting from gang violence in Haiti. This seems quite direct.
It does. It shows a very focused legislative effort. Instead of just, say, broad aid packages, this bill targets the financial networks, the networks that are underpinning the instability in Haiti, a nation grappling with just severe crises. So the U.S. is leveraging transparency as a tool, really, to disrupt these criminal enterprises. It's a strategy we often see in complex foreign policy challenges, particularly, closer to home.
Then there's H.R. 2503, the Undersea Cable Control Act. This is fascinating.
Yeah.
It focuses on something most of us probably don't think much about, the physical backbone of our internet.
That's right.
It aims to develop a strategy to stop foreign adversaries from getting goods and technologies that support these undersea cables. Feels very modern, very 21st century national security.
It absolutely is. Undersea cables are, they're the digital backbone for the modern global economy, full stop. And recent attacks, they've really highlighted their extreme vulnerability. So this legislation, it recognizes that securing this critical infrastructure is paramount through things like stronger export controls, requiring more transparency, pushing for allied collaboration. It's a proactive stance against a growing digital and geopolitical threat.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. Intelligence and human rights. We saw Mrs. Kim of California championing the Uyghur Policy Act. This directs the Secretary of State to lead U.S. efforts supporting Uyghurs and other ethnic and religious minorities in Xinjiang, and crucially, to counteract transnational repression. That phrase, transnational repression, feels particularly insidious.
It truly is. And this act, it continues a pretty consistent U.S. foreign policy focus on human rights, specifically addressing the egregious actions by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. Mrs. Kim pointed out how Uyghur advocates, even right here on U.S. soil, face intimidation and harassment.
Wow.
So this legislation isn't just about what happens over there. It's about protecting individuals here from the extraterritorial reach of these repressive campaigns.
Of course, no discussion of Congress, especially around this time of year, is complete without the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act.
The big one.
Senator Wicker announced the Senate is taking up this year's version, S-2296. He highlighted the rigorous work by the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he reminded us, back in 2023, they considered 900 amendments.
900.
And adopted 121. That's a staggering amount of debate and compromise.
It truly is. The NDAA process is pretty unique in Congress. It consistently undergoes one of the most open and extensive amendment processes, which allows for really significant bipartisan engagement, influence. It acts as this crucial mechanism for Congress to really shape U.S. defense policy year after year.
And within this year's NDAA, there's some really impactful provisions. For instance, one notable amendment focuses on international nuclear energy.
Right, the International Nuclear Energy Financing Act of 2025.
It sets up a nuclear exports working group to develop a 10-year civil nuclear trade strategy. And it specifically excludes nations like China and Russia. What's the strategic thinking behind this push for civil nuclear?
Well, it signals a very clear strategy: promote U.S. and allied civil nuclear technology globally. It's not just about generating power, although that's important. It's a critical component of national security. By providing clean, reliable energy solutions to partners, you're also enhancing their energy security, fostering economic ties, and, importantly, preventing proliferation to adversaries.
Makes sense. Beyond nuclear energy, the NDAA also tackles things like IUU fishing, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing.
Yes, directing the Commerce Secretary to create a public list of foreign vessels involved.
And it authorizes significant foreign military financing for the Philippines, up to $500 million a year from FY26 to FY30, for modernizing their defenses.
Both those provisions, they really speak to a broader Indo-Pacific strategy. IU fishing, it's often linked to geopolitical competition, resource exploitation, destabilizing regions,
Right.
and bolstering the Philippines' defense capabilities. Well, that's a direct response to the escalating security challenges in the region, strengthening a key ally in a really critical maritime theater.
And in what seems like a powerful statement, the NDAA includes the Taiwan Non-Discrimination Act of 2025.
Yes.
It expresses congressional findings that Taiwan's economic experience should inform international financial institutions. And it directs the U.S. governor of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, to support Taiwan's admission.
That's a significant diplomatic and economic gesture, no question. It aims to normalize Taiwan's role in global financial institutions, despite, all the geopolitical sensitivities. It really underscores steadfast U.S. support for Taiwan's democratic governance and its thriving economic model.
And, as always, the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2026 is also on the docket, authorizing funding for intelligence activities.
This is vital, though often seen as routine legislation. It ensures the U.S. intelligence community, everyone from HUMINT to SIGINT, can continue its critical work, adapt to new threats, maintain capabilities, support national security priorities. Absolutely essential.
Now let's shift to a major public health and security concern: fentanyl. H.R. 747, the Stop Chinese Fentanyl Act, seems to be actively moving.
It is.
We saw Chairman Brian Mast of Foreign Affairs agree to discharge the Judiciary Committee from further consideration, letting it go to the House floor. And the Financial Services Committee also noted its interest. It sounds like a complex legislative dance.
Oh, it's textbook congressional jurisdictional complexity. Happens all the time. Legislation with overlapping subjects, foreign affairs, criminal justice, financial sanctions, it often requires these intricate negotiations just to move forward.
So what does the bill itself do?
Well, it aims to expand sanctions, push China for commitments to control fentanyl precursors. It reflects a multi-pronged approach to what is a severe public health and national security crisis. It even allows the president to sanction foreign government agencies if they're found to be involved in opioid trafficking.
Okay. Beyond specific bills, Congress seems to be pushing for significant reforms and transparency within the intelligence community itself. Section 501, for example, requires the FBI director, working with the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, to declassify info within 30 days about foreign government officials helping their citizens evade justice here in the U.S. Why this specific focus? On foreign help for fugitives.
It reflects a growing demand, really, for government transparency and accountability, particularly when you have high-profile cases involving potential foreign interference in our justice system. It's a response to public and congressional pressure to shed light on those kinds of activities.
And speaking of transparency, Section 513 directs the DNI to post a public report every 180 days on the wealth of the Chinese Communist Party leadership. What's the strategic thinking there? Exposing the finances of foreign leaders.
Well, it's a direct counterintelligence tactic and also an economic pressure tactic. By shining a light on the wealth of CCP leadership, the idea is to expose potential corruption, vulnerabilities, maybe links between power and illicit financial gains. The goal is to counter malign influence and maybe even promote internal stability over there.
Other intelligence reforms. Section 801 requires the DNI to develop standard guidelines for the IC, the intelligence community, to report AHIs. Anomalous health incidents.
Yes, like those Havana syndrome incidents affecting U.S. personnel.
And Section 901, this one's critical, directs the DNI to declassify intelligence related to coronavirus research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology within 180 days, including gain-of-function research.
Right. The AHI guidelines are a direct response to the ongoing concerns about these unexplained health incidents. Trying to standardize reporting and care, the COVID-19 declassification, though, that highlights the persistent calls for much greater transparency about the pandemic's origins. It reflects significant public and congressional pressure to uncover more information.
There's also Section 902, mandating counterintelligence briefings for armed forces members, raising awareness about how governments and companies of concern try to solicit sensitive military info.
Yes.
And Section 512 prohibits the IC from contracting with Chinese military biotech companies deemed a national security threat.
These measures are all about hardening defenses against espionage, protecting sensitive U.S. information, protecting technologies. It's a recognition of how threats evolve,
Right.
from traditional spying to modern supply chain vulnerabilities, especially in critical sectors like biotech.
And finally, a significant security measure, Section 1106, restricts access to Department of Defense cloud systems and data. Only U.S. citizens or citizens of allied Five Eyes countries, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, can access them, with exceptions for security clearances.
This is fundamental security hardening for cloud resources. It reflects serious concerns about data integrity, access control, especially with sophisticated cyber threats out there. And the Five Eyes Alliance, well, that's an established framework for trusted intelligence sharing, so limiting access primarily to those partners makes strategic sense.
Okay, let's shift gears to domestic policy for a moment. We saw an unnamed Michigan representative championing what they call the One Big Beautiful Bill Act,
Right.
described as cutting red tape, giving families, farmers, and job creators more freedom. It bundles significant investments, over $2 billion for the Defense Health Program, funds for shipbuilding, advanced weapons.
The justification there links defense spending directly to job creation and national security. But it also highlights tangible benefits like, quote, permanent death tax relief for family farms and improved healthcare access for service members. It's an attempt really to build broad appeal by connecting maybe disparate policy areas under one catchy umbrella name.
On the Senate side, we saw movement on other domestic bills, too.
Yeah.
Senator Fetterman co-sponsoring the Kay-Hagan Tick Act, S2398.
Aiming to combat tick-borne diseases.
And Senator Sanders co-sponsoring S2447, a bill about Medicaid cost sharing and orphan drugs under Medicare.
These show that ongoing focus, often bipartisan, on specific public health concerns and economic policies that really hit home for everyday Americans. It highlights that continuous work, finding common ground on public welfare.
And a couple more from the House. H.R. 5099 from Mrs. Williams of Georgia proposes a refundable tax credit for certain gun safes. And H.R. 5100 from Mr. Williams of Texas looks to extend the SBIR and STTR programs, the Small Business Innovation Research Programs.
Both are targeted domestic policies. The gun safe tax credit addresses a specific aspect of gun safety, while extending SBIR and STTR, well, that's crucial for fostering innovation in the small business sector. And that has broader economic and national security implications, driving tech advancement.
And vital for election integrity, Section 907 requires penetration testing for voting systems, amending the Help America Vote Act.
That's a critical step, a direct response to concerns about election security and, frankly, public trust. Mandating penetration testing, basically, trying to hack your own systems to find vulnerabilities. It's a robust measure to ensure the integrity and reliability of our voting infrastructure.
And something that really impacts specific communities. Comprehensive legislation for the Fort Belknap Indian community in Montana.
Yes, Title LI.
A multi-section act. Ratifies a water rights compact. Facilitates land transfers. Establishes trust funds for irrigation, water resources, clean water systems.
That legislation is incredibly significant. It addresses long-standing historical claims, water rights, going back to a 2001 compact, and it facilitates future-focused development. It's a multifaceted approach. Legal recognition, land transfers, financial investment, all supporting tribal self-governance and infrastructure.
Finally, within the Coast Guard Authorization Act of 2025, we see a focus on modernizing operations.
Right.
Authorizing appropriations, mandating a study of the hangar at Coast Guard Air Station Corpus Christi, requiring training on small, uncrewed maritime systems, establishing a national inventory of abandoned vessels. What does this tell us about the Coast Guard's role today?
Well, these provisions, they reflect the Coast Guard's evolving operational needs. It's a complex maritime environment out there, so maintaining critical infrastructure, adapting to new tech like drones, addressing environmental and safety concerns like abandoned vessels. It shows a commitment to modernizing, enhancing capabilities across all their diverse missions. There's even a pilot program in there for food coupons for enlisted members at a couple of installations, directly addressing quality of life.
Okay, let's pivot now to the political dynamics, because that's often where the friction is, but also where you find some fascinating insights. While we saw moments of collaboration, clear partisan divides were definitely on display. That Michigan representative championing the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, for example, explicitly accused, quote, every single Democrat voted to raise taxes on hardworking Americans.
Right. And that highlights a common rhetorical strategy, doesn't it? Framing economic policy in stark partisan terms, often used to galvanize a political base, draw clear distinctions between the parties on issues like taxes, economic impact.
We also heard an unnamed senator criticizing, quote, Democrats' obstruction for slowing down Senate business, particularly presidential confirmations, claiming such delays go back as far as the Hoover administration. Suggests deep-seated procedural battles.
Oh, absolutely. It reflects that historical tension in the Senate over confirmations, especially during periods of divided government. It's a reminder that these political tactics, while maybe more visible today with 247 News, they have deep roots in the history of the legislative process itself.
And another speaker criticizing Donald Trump's tariffs as one big fat lie. Citing losses and layoffs at companies like John Deere, Caterpillar, increased prices at Target, Walmart. That's a direct economic counterargument.
It is a direct challenge to a specific economic policy, using real-world examples, job losses, consumer price hikes, to argue against protectionist trade measures. These economic impact debates, they frequently form the core of partisan disagreements, especially when it comes to trade policy.
But importantly, it wasn't all division. We saw Mr. Baumgartner note the bipartisan spirit in the Haiti Criminal Collusion Transparency Act.
Yes.
And he explicitly highlighted the Partner Act as having broad bipartisan support, thanking all of my colleagues, Democrat and Republican.
And those instances are important. They're counter-narratives to the perception of just constant gridlock. They show that despite the rhetoric, members from both sides can still come together, usually on issues deemed to be in the national interest, particularly foreign policy and national security.
And Senator Wicker's comments about the NDAA expressing that my colleagues on the Armed Services Committee stand fully behind this bill, that indicates a shared commitment across party lines, at least on defense policy. Plus, many bills were introduced with multiple co-sponsors from both parties.
That's crucial to remember. While the high-profile, hot-button issues might see deep divisions, the day-to-day work of legislating, especially on complex or more consensus-driven topics, often involves significant cross-party collaboration. It reminds us that cooperation, even if it's quieter, is still very much a part of how Congress functions.
Okay, looking ahead, what are the key legislative milestones we should be watching? The Senate is scheduled to resume consideration of the NDAA, S-2296, on Wednesday, September 3rd. What should we expect there? What are the broader implications?
Well, expect more debate, definitely votes on those tabled amendments we mentioned earlier, and eventually reconciliation with the House version. This bill, when finalized, will define U.S. military policy and spending for fiscal year 2026. It'll have ripple effects across defense industries, military bases, international alliances. Its passage is, frankly, a cornerstone of national security and a real barometer of congressional priorities.
And the Stop Chinese Fentanyl Act, H.R. 747, now cleared for the House floor after those jurisdictional agreements. Potential next steps.
Its passage could lead to new sanctions, potentially strengthen international cooperation, definitely reports from state and justice on efforts to combat fentanyl trafficking, with that specific focus on China. And remember, the DNI's 90-day policy on IC contracting with Chinese biotech suppliers, that's directly related. It's a multifaceted approach to this threat.
We also heard about a working group for a strategic infrastructure fund, briefing Congress within 180 days, full report in a year.
Right. That could lead to new legislative proposals, maybe large-scale investments in civil nuclear tech, microprocessors, shaping future U.S. infrastructure and tech policy. Big potential impact there.
And stemming from that International Nuclear Energy Financing Act, within a year, a 10-year civil nuclear trade strategy will be established.
Yes, signaling a significant diplomatic and economic push, promoting U.S. and allied nuclear technologies globally. It impacts energy security and non-proliferation efforts.
Beyond these specific bills, what broader trends or consequences should we, be aware of from all this activity?
Well, the sheer array of bills and intelligence directives concerning China, fentanyl, Uyghurs, CCP wealth, biotech contracting, and also Russia's destabilization efforts, it really highlights an intensifying focus on countering these adversaries across multiple fronts: economic, military, intelligence. It suggests a sustained period of strategic competition is, well, very much underway.
And there's that clear emphasis on supply chain resilience, tech security, export controls on AI chips, securing undersea cables.
Absolutely. That indicates a really proactive stance, protecting critical technologies, critical infrastructure, vital for both national security and economic stability in this increasingly interconnected and contested world.
Modernizing government operations also seems like a consistent theme. Reforms in the intelligence community scrutinizing DoD cloud access.
It reflects an ongoing effort to adapt to new threats, ensure the security and effectiveness of U.S. government functions, making sure our institutions can keep pace with rapid technological and geopolitical changes.
And finally, those mandates for declassifying info on COVID origins, foreign help for fugitives, reports on CCP wealth, points to a growing demand for transparency.
Definitely. That trend towards increased transparency is crucial for maintaining public trust, for fostering informed decision-making, especially in a world often overwhelmed by information. It empowers citizens, really, to engage more meaningfully with their government, hold officials accountable.
Which brings us perfectly to how you, the listener, can engage with all this. You can easily track the legislation we've discussed today, plus a lot more, by visiting congress.gov. That site provides the full text, the sponsors, summaries, the legislative status for pretty much every bill. And your voice matters. Find contact information for your House representative, your senators, through the official House.gov and Senate.gov websites. Share your thoughts on the International Traffic in Arms Regulations Licensing Reform Act, or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or the Fort Belknap Indian Community legislation. These are issues that directly impact communities, impact the nation. And beyond Congress.gov, you might consider following official committee websites: House Foreign Affairs, Judiciary, Financial Services, Senate Armed Services, Foreign Relations. They often have hearings, reports, deeper insights into specific issues that might affect you. And just as a reminder, the Senate is scheduled to resume consideration of the National Defense Authorization Act, S-2296, on Wednesday, September 3rd. Keep an eye on its progress. And also the Stop Chinese Fentanyl Act, H.R. 747, as it moves to the House floor.
All of this raises a really important question, I think. In this world of increasing complexity, global interconnectedness, how do we, as citizens, ensure our elected officials prioritize that long-term strategic vision, while also effectively addressing the immediate national and international challenges right in front of us? And, crucially, how do we hold them accountable for doing both?
That's a great question, a truly thought-provoking one to leave us with, and certainly something for all of you to consider as you follow these crucial developments. Remember, staying informed is always the first, most vital step in shaping our shared future.